Memory transcription subject. Chief Hunter Isif, Axa Dominion, Sector Fleet. Date: Standardized Human Time, December 13th, 2136. My shuttle traversed the space that separated me from my alien pen pal. The 8,000 Dominion ships I'd summoned had arrived as well. Those were the assets I had within immediate range of the Dossa homeworld. The Axa fleet awaited my command, requiring further instruction as to our goal. The reason why they hesitated was simple. The Federation had numerical strength that seemed fantastical. The Kultians had sent 40,000 ships barreling into the system, or possibly more. It was greater than the initial size of Kalsim's extermination fleet. I understood what Prophet Descendant Giznel had implied about the Prey Powers being able to muster up numbers if they wanted to. The invasion of Malu's system involved an overwhelming show of force per my initial readings. The more I performed the mental math, it was striking how easy these numbers would be for their assembly. With a mere 30 species having flipped to humanity's side, that left 270 races to pull resources and ships from. If all of those races contributed 140 ships, that gave the number we saw today. It's a mere fraction of their available resources to pull from. This is the tip of the iceberg for the Kolshians' might. The Dossa's defenses were steamrolled by the Juggernaut Armada, and the human ships seeking repairs didn't hold a candle to this astronomical force. General Jones was off her hunting pedestal if she thought I could stop this assault. Even our numbers were unlikely to achieve more beyond delaying the Federation's end goals. But since I was already here risking my cover, there had to be an attempt to rescue Felra. Felra is in an old Federation spot. A space station which has a separate area for humans awaiting repairs, I muttered to myself. I was grateful that my shuttle had no company, so I could muse over how to locate her aloud. The Axa ships around me grew restless now that I was in the system. They expected orders from their chief hunter soon, and it was a matter of time before the UN or the Federation noticed our arrival too. Was it my sentimentality that was telling me to interfere? My viewport zoomed in on Malu. The Dossa homeworld wasn't reflecting any antimatter damage. The Kolshians had the planet comfortably under control. After the Federation failed to subdue the Maziks, they'd ramped up their efforts. I could see the enemy sending shuttles down to Milu's surface, and realized that their goals were likely re-education. All Axa ships, listen up. We are here at the request of the United Nations, who have the means to feed all of us forever. I backed into the Dominion's encrypted feed. Some of you were there on Earth, and you remember how well fed you were. For that reason, I expect your hunting efforts to avoid Terran-affiliated races. We know it will be worth the pittance of restraint. Now engage with the Federation attackers at once. Our ships surged forth out of various gravity wells, swarming the handful of attackers allocated to outer stations. I was bent over my holopad and scrolling through a poorly secured military personnel database. Inspectors were considered part of the Space Force on Malu, as far as I remembered. That meant I could figure out which outpost Felra was assigned to. Plasma munitions flashed across the void, and the element of surprise allowed us to pick off any stragglers. Dossa defenders, complemented by an array of UN ships, seemed to pause their desperate efforts. There weren't many friendlies left within the system, but the survivors seemed baffled by the Axa's arrival. Perhaps they thought our onslaught was an inopportune coincidence. Attention military personnel of the Dossa home system. I broadcasted my next message onto an open channel and tried to eliminate any hostile words. The Axa are here at the behest of the United Nations to aid you in defending your claim against the Federation. I will only warn you once. Do not fire upon us. My pupils darted back to the screen where I'd searched up Felra's file. The rodent's likeness was unmistakable in her documentation, and her present assignment was listed near the top. I searched up the space station number, pinning it down on a star chart. The rest of the battle faded away as I raced to pull up that location on the viewport. The complex was nestled within an asteroid belt, which separated the inner and outer planets. A few dozen Federation attackers had tamed its meat defenses and docked with the station to capture their inhabitants. The energy readings in the vicinity were fresh, suggesting that the Kolshians only put down spiteful human resistance in the past hour. There might still be time to save the Dossa if you hurry. I hurled the maximum output into my thrusters, and my shuttle blazed a path for Felra's station. A few Axa vessels tailed their commander, though I figured they were baffled by a chief hunter leading the charge. This entire mission was going to raise questions I couldn't answer. Right now, I didn't have the time to waste on tact. The Federation vessels pulled away from the station and met us for a head-on confrontation. I shirked the engagement altogether, leaving my underlings to duke it out with the prey. The sudden courage from the Kolshian surprised me. It was clear they were more competent than they let on. My eyes swelled with franticness, searching for an open docking port. "There are none," I hissed to myself. "None! I don't have time for a proper breaching action. I have to get down there. For fuck's sake. I'll make an opening." Scanning the station's blueprints, I identified a maintenance tunnel which should be well clear of any living quarters. This shuttle carried 2 missiles, and I hoped the use of one would only demolish a wall. While station operators could seal off individual compartments, that also meant that I'd need a pressurized suit for oxygen. I took the emergency fabric on with haste before donning a safety harness. With my biological requirements taken care of, I fired a missile into the station's exterior wall. The tunnel was exposed to the vacuum of space, its structure blasted wide open. Bullets clipped my rear flank as Federation hostiles noticed my approach. Curses spewed from my maw, and I wrenched the steering column toward the new gap. The shuttle closed in on the Adastra space station, dodging enemy munitions. I held no interest in returning fire. That would increase the amount of time it took to reach Felra. My ship's nose dove through the opening, and I twisted the vessel's body to skid along the floor. Friction resulted in both an awful screech and shuddering sensation before the tail slammed against the half-intact wall. My shoulder ached from the harness's restraint, but I unclipped it without waiting. My suited paws tucked a firearm into a holster, and I slunk out into the station. The night backdrop of space was visible through the gap, as well as distant exchanges of munitions. Suffocating Kolshians and other Federation aliens lie gasping for air alongside 2 Terran soldiers. I grabbed 1 human in each paw and dragged them toward the section divider. The primates were lethargic, and their expressions were locked in an empty display. There was nothing behind their eyes, with no oxygen coming to their brain. I opened the emergency compartment, throwing the weaker predators inside. Sealing the hatch behind me, I removed my oxygen helmet. The Terran skin had been turning blue, though they were rapidly regaining normal coloration now. "Hi." I swished my tail as politely as I could and allowed the humans a moment to breathe. "Chief Undecisive, at your service. Sorry about the unforeseeable depressurization. What are your names?" One primate began reaching for her service weapon, and I hissed in irritation. My gun was out of its holster in a second, pointed at her in warning. Her hand remained frozen in place for a long second before she submitted to my threat. I bared my teeth, a formidable warning rather than amusement. My tongue flitted between my teeth. You guys look like fresh reinforcements. Let me guess. The United Nations sent you from Fall right across the border. You never saw direct action since Shaza's plan for a swift takeover of Silis was a failure.
Go to hell!
The female coughed. So I was right, I take it. I'm here as an ally. Where are the Adastra civilians? I promise I'm here to get them out, not to harm them.
Everybody knows your idea of getting them out is a cattle farm.
The other human sat up, pulling a broken glass instrument off his eyes.
What are you really up to? Claiming this system for yourself, or making...
Stupid. I am a spy for the United Nations. A piss-poor one. That is what I'm up to. You and your government's stupid ideas. I have been personally motivated into offering assistance.
A spy, huh? Of course. You're the one from Earth. They had every opportunity to take you to Area 51 or some clandestine facility.
The female cursed in exasperation.
Are you kidding me, Oleg? You just instantly believe the UN has Adastra spies with zero proof.
Do you honestly think I would craft such a story on my own? Saying such a thing aloud is going to get me killed. I have no time to persuade you humans, so tell me where the Adastra are now, I roared. Oleg tilted his head.
Good argument. Props to you, man. They've been ordered to lock themselves in their quarters. Big sign says, personal quarters. Just keep going straight. Can't miss it.
Thank you. Was that so hard? Grumbling to myself, I stomped off past the corridor's hatch. The Terran soldiers struggled to their feet, and I resigned myself to them following me like herdless Van Lil. Arrogance aside, I could use backup if I encountered Federation resistance. The herbivores might lack skill in combat, but they could team up on me alone. Humans are competent fighters, so it's not like they're dead weight. That said, this Oleg guy seems a little too willing to believe that I'm a spy. Oleg squinted without the glass adornment by his eyes. I hoped the human hadn't lost his vision altogether. Even if he could only see shapes, I was certain that he was more competent than the Kolshians. The female human, who I believed Oleg had called Lisa in whispers, was staring at me with distrusting, bloodshot eyes. Perhaps the duo were following me to ensure that I wasn't rounding up any DOSer. I scanned the perimeter for hostiles. How has your military experience been going?
This was supposed to be a relaxing assignment after watching the Hatchin for weeks.
Lisa complained.
We were shipped here just in case, and the second we kick our boots off, in they come. Now the Arcs are here, telling fantastical stories that sound like Oleg crafted them.
Oleg cleared his throat.
Kram, they hit all of our allies with the test invasion. I hope it's not like this everywhere. I've grown attached to some friends on Venlil Prime.
My source says this is the primary target. Venlil Prime is fine, I replied.
Huh, that's a relief. Say, Isif, the alleged secret agent, what convinced you to come here? You should tell us, since we're a team.
We are not a team.
Come on, you totally want to tell me.
I've already told these two humans everything, just to get Felra's location. They might as well know the truth if they're stalking me. They're going to notice that I know her. An internet chatting service. A DOSer is my best friend, I growled. Lisa's eyebrow was furrowed.
What? I'd hardly believe you dare to make a story like that up.
I would not, because it's insane. I scanned my visual translator over the text markings overhead, and it deciphered the DOSer's language as directions with arrows. Just as Oleg had promised, the crew quarters were located down the main corridor. The passage had been devoid of confrontation, but gunfire echoed from up ahead. That meant Federation soldiers had already reached the living areas. The Kolshians must have sent forces down from two angles. One boarding party had been held in the maintenance tunnel that I detonated. The other likely attacked from the other side, charging straight from the hangar bay to the quarters. Splitting up human defenders was rather tactical for a species that didn't know the meaning of offense, allegedly.
Which one is your supposed pal?
Lisa pointed to a piece of paper, which I assumed contained room assignments.
Also, I see a few dozen Kolshians and count 3 of us. Maybe we should rethink our strategy.
The prototype visual translator had no trouble with the roll call, which listed Felra as room 219. I committed the DOSer symbols for that number to memory, knowing her life depended on it. My firearm wavered in my paws, and I dropped into a hunting crouch. The humans crept along as well, lining up enemies in their scopes. My pupils scanned each door for the numbers, while I ensured that my steps were silent. I could see cerulean and violet Kolshians moving between rooms and exiting with sedated DOSer. All I could hope was that Felra wasn't among those already captured. It would be next to impossible to spring her from the Federation re-education party. My gaze drifted several doors down the hall, one room past where the Kolshians were now. I pointed with a claw. That one. My whisper was almost inaudible, but the humans understood the message. These Terrans were rather cooperative. I wondered if it was since they could gang up on me the second I made a move or was found to be deceitful. The primates often had a strange way of showing gratitude for saving their lives. I'd hauled their oxygen-deprived bodies from the tunnel, yet they were likely calculating ways to kill me. I can respect it at least. Unless I try to backstab them, I doubt they'll try anything stupid. Fighting the Federation is enough for now. Right now, the 3 of us needed to get past the Kolshian posse. The enemy soldiers stood between us and Felra's door. The thought crossed my mind to use the Terrans as a distraction, but I knew they'd see right through such suggestions. How are we going to reach my DOSer friend without alerting the invaders? A firefight seemed like the only solution, so I gestured for us to charge. My claw depressed the trigger, and I nailed 2 Kolshians in the back before they could react. Oleg and Lisa joined in on my fire, peppering any soldiers that couldn't find cover. The Federation got their bearings in a second and hurled bullets back in our direction. We dropped down closer to the floor, crawling closer to Felra's door. Most hostiles had ducked inside the room they were currently raiding, but a few had moved on to the next quarters, room 219. I scurried past the first door, feeling static electricity as a bullet whizzed over my spine. Lisa offered suppressing fire as a visually impaired Oleg scrambled after me. The Federation had gotten to the target ahead of us, but I couldn't stop. I fired desperate shots at the advancing soldiers. No! No! We're too close to let anything happen. Panic clamped at my heart, seeing 4 Kolshians kicking down Felra's door. I could hear a shrill scream which lacked power or grit. Adrenaline flowed through my veins alongside a deeper emotion of concern. I rounded the doorway in a fluid motion and used my nostrils to pounce at a Federation lackey. My body was acting on pure autopilot as I tore one soldier's throat on instinct. Felra's screams intensified, which encouraged my frenzy. If I was lucid, I would have realized she was shrieking because of my presence. However, in my haze, all I could see was 2 Kolshians cornering her. Another was tracking the rodent's movements from further back. My tail swept across the floor, earning a sickening crack as it broke 2 Kolshians' ankles in one swoop. The enemy tracker turned his gun muzzle toward me, and I punched out a fist on instinct. My appendage connected with bones, while the scent of blood hit my nostrils. Vision sharpened as the scent made my eyes dilate. I just shattered the Kolshian's windpipe and spine with a single punch. The duo with the broken leg started to move, but Oleg rushed in to stop them from engaging. It was tempting to finish the helpless Kolshians off. However, enough of my awareness had returned to realize it had sickened Felra. I strained to bottle the adrenaline, drawing ragged gasps.
Help! Human!
The Dosser managed to cry.
Oxo!
Oleg's eyes narrowed with suspicion.
I thought you said she was your friend.
I grunted, struggling to formulate coherent words. The blood was still rushing in my ears, causing my claws to twitch. It's complicated, is it not, Felra?
What? How? No.
Additional horror lit up the Dosser's gaze as her terrified brain arrived at the truth. Something told me that she'd placed a name to the Oxer who was towering over her with a maniacal snarl. I possessed a keen awareness of the blood slathered across my claws and every scar and tooth fracture I had. The human watched from the sidelines, discerning enough of the subtext. Felra swayed on her feet.
Siffy?
Yeah. The Dosser's eyes widened further than should be possible, and she passed out onto the floor.